Welcome to the stream. Thanks for making chicken parmesan today. Tell me some good things that have been happening with you guys this week. For me, I've been having a fantastic week. It's just been busy, busy, busy. One thing after another. Totally spaced on putting anything on the internet earlier this week about doing the cook-along. So that's about how busy I've been. Hey, Mom. Hey, Michael. Hey, Hobbit. And Felicia. How's it going, everybody? Tell me some good wins from the week. How have you guys been doing? We're going to go ahead and get started here with the chicken parmesan. We're also going to be making a caprese salad. And along with the caprese salad, we're going to be doing garlic bread. So get your oven preheated if you're cooking along with me, 430 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going to get our chicken dredged, and we're going to let it kind of sit. So what I've got here is, I've got my chicken over here. Again, I'm using the rack that's got the little airflow underneath it, essentially is what it is. And if you want a real quick pro tip here, you can take this and just cover it with aluminum foil, and it'll make sure that none of the drippings get onto the pan. Then it saves you a little bit of time cleaning it up a little, later. Yeah, storms in Georgia for sure. Cool, so let's get our chicken ready. We're gonna take our 2 eggs. We're gonna crack them into a small flat dish like this Tupperware here that I've got, or the Pyrex. Yeah, my week has been absolutely crazy. I've had a lot to do, and it's both a blessing and a curse. Keeps you busy, keeps you thinking about other things to move on with, but at the same time, kind of makes you feel like you're running a little bit ragged, so that's never fun. We're gonna go ahead and get that. I'm going to put in my garlic and my parsley in here as well. And what we're going to be doing with this is we're going to be dredging our chicken through this egg mixture. And we're going to let it sit in the fridge for a little bit while we start putting together our sauce. We're going to add a little bit of salt, about a teaspoon, and some freshly cracked pepper. Very good. Now I want a fork. Just gonna give this a good little mix, get it all kind of incorporated. So I've had a lot of people in the past couple of weeks ask me, how the real estate market's doing in this area. And it's doing pretty well. It's actually not that bad. There's a lot of stuff going on. There are people who need to buy and sell, and so we are helping those individuals out. Apart from that, we're just doing a lot of training online, a lot of Zoom calls, and I teach at our market center, so I'm doing a lot of teaching as well. Not just market center, but also teaching in other spots as well, so it's been pretty busy. This has been a crazy week. So we've got this going. Our dredge is good. I'm actually going to salt and pepper my chicken breasts separately from this as well, very lightly. You are going to get some salt and pepper from the dredge, yet you don't want to trust that that's going to season your chicken. So you're just going to add a little bit on top of that, just to make sure that you get good coverage. I use one hand for my dry ingredients or the salt, and I use the other hand for the chicken, as best you can. You'll forget, and you'll grab the chicken with your dry hand. It happens. There we go. So we're going to set that over there. And we're going to go ahead and get our chicken dredged. So I'm going to dredge the chicken and put it right back onto this pan. I'm just going to get this really nice and covered. Now you can do this exact same thing with eggplant. If you don't want to use the egg, if you're doing this vegetarian, you can definitely use olive oil. There we go. We'll do the same thing with this. I'm actually going to be pulling some of this parsley on top of the chicken. There we go. Set that aside. I'm just going to set this in the fridge Again, it's not next to anything and it's not going to be touching anything, so it's okay to leave it uncovered. The bacteria from that aren't going to like fly off into the air or anything. I'm going to give my egg hand a little bit of a rinse over here, and then we're going to move on to the next. Awesome. So we're gonna get our breadcrumbs. I've got panko and just regular Italian breadcrumbs in here. I'm gonna mix those with garlic powder. I'm taking a look at the chat over here. I know, Steve, I do need a partner. I gotta make two for me. That's not fun. I've got garlic powder in here as well, and all I'm gonna do is just kind of mix these together. We're gonna get this into another little vessel so that we can actually bread our chicken. We're gonna wait for that to come out of the fridge. I'm gonna leave it in there for about 15 minutes, get our sauce going first. There we go. Very cool, very cool. While we're doing that, I'm actually gonna move this out of the way. I'm going to grab this guy. We're going to start getting him heated up. Medium high heat, actually high heat will get going. Now I've got a couple of old onions back here in my fridge. I'm going to use them up. Go ahead and do one of these really cool things. Watch what I'm working on. You know, Felicia, I actually don't like eggplant, so I have never made myself eggplant parmesan. It's not something that I like to eat. My stepmom, Cindy, actually came up with a really good idea. She said that I should make, instead of eggplant, I should use a portobello mushroom. So I could do that. I could do zucchini, because I like both of those. I think that they're both delicious. But I'm just not an eggplant person. Never have been. I get some flack for that because I'm Armenian and we have baba ganoush and a bunch of other eggplant dishes that I just don't eat. So it's not easy not liking stuff. Go ahead and get some oil in there and let it heat up a little bit. Awesome. Hey, Grandpa and Peggy, how are you all doing? Or Grandpa, as he likes to be called. I don't even know if he likes to be called that. We just call him that. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and get our onion chopped up here. Again, if you've seen me do this before, you know that you always curl your fingers like this so that you can, very, very low chance of you actually cutting yourself. And if you cut an onion up like that, you get quite a bit of onion and very little waste. Go ahead and get our onion in here. Turn it down a little bit because I just want to sweat them. I don't want them to burn or brown all that much. Red onion, and while we're doing that, we'll get the white onion as well. Now I have a question for you. Can you guys hear the air conditioning in the background? Because it's the first time that I've turned it on and had a stream going at the same time. So if it's on, if you can hear it, and if it's annoying, I'll go turn it off. It has cooled off in the house a little bit, so I won't die of heat today. It's 92 degrees outside right now, and my house does not stay cool when it's warm outside. I'm also not a very good warm weather person. I like it when it's cooler. So I had to turn it on about an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours ago, and get my house chilled down just a bit. No onion for you, dog, sorry. Awesome. That's good news for me. Perfect, perfect. Awesome, Michael. Thank you. Thank you all for letting me know. So we're just going to let this kind of sweat itself out. We're making the sauce for the chicken parm right now. While we wait for the chicken to kind of firm up and marry itself to the eggs. Got the onion in there. And I need a little bit more garlic for the sauce. So I'm going to grab another clove, or two actually, because I like things when they're garlicky. I'll show you a real quick trick for getting the skin off the garlic. Come here, cloves. So if you take your garlic, lay it flat on the cutting board, and just tap on it with your knife. Skin comes right off and you still have a full clove of garlic. The other option, of course, is you can just kind of smash it with your hand, but if you like things looking nice and pretty, like me, because I am nice and pretty, just kind of give it a tap. And then I'm just going to do the same thing. Just kind of cut through the garlic like this. Again, if you keep your fingers kind of curled up like a claw while you're doing this, very hard to cut yourself, so you can go a little bit quicker. But go at your own speed. There is no reason for you to rush this. I'm just very comfortable in the kitchen doing this cooking stuff, so I can go a little bit faster. The speed kind of comes as you get more comfortable with it. There we go. Nice chopped up garlic. Yeah, it's California usually gets pretty warm. It gets hotter than Georgia in temperature, Felicia, but it doesn't get as humid. It's always a dry heat here. I mean, occasionally it gets humid, but it's usually a dry heat. So we do get pretty warm over here. And today, like, we've been having a heat wave this week. It's been pretty crazy. Usually we don't get this warm in April. There we go. We're going to add our garlic to the mix, like so, and just kind of let that cook until it gets a little bit fragrant. Now, if you keep things moving, it's very hard for them to burn because you're limiting the amount of time that the food is in contact with a very hot surface. So rather than burn, it's just going to kind of get light and toasty. What I'm going to do right now is turn down the heat so that it doesn't burn, because I'm going to stop stirring it in a second. I am going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to this. Always season as you go. It's easier to get the balance correct. By stirring the salt in, the onions are going to start releasing moisture. The garlic is also going to start breaking down and releasing its garlicky goodness into the mix. And it's going to be delicious. You always got to have a positive mindset when you're cooking. It's always going to be delicious. Never going to be terrible. It's always going to be very, very tasty. Now I have an unusually large can of tomatoes here, tomato puree. We're going to use about half of this can. Just going to open this bad boy up. And we're going to eyeball about half the can. Yep, that looks like about half the can. The best part of cooking is tasting things as you go. Get this all stirred together. Now what I'm going to do is add a bunch of Italian herbs to this. I'm going to grab a couple of bay leaves, some dried oregano. I've got some fresh basil that I'm going to add in here for our caprese, but I'm also going to use it in this sauce. So let me go over here, walk over my dog because he's in my way. What else do I have? Bay leaves. What else do I have in here? Cloves, nutmeg, no. I think that will be good. I'm also going to spice up my chicken Parmesan sauce because I like a nice bit of bite. Just gonna eyeball this, about a teaspoon or more if you like the flavor of oregano. I do like the flavor of oregano. Gonna add a bay leaf. We're gonna fish the bay leaf out later, but that's gonna give it a little bit of a freshness. Those out of the way, and let me grab my basil. Calm yourself. I don't need too much basil for this. I'm just gonna pull off 2 leaves. Get my opener out of the way. Now the best way to cut basil, take it like this and layer it. Roll it up like a cigar. And now you can just slice right down and you'll get really nice julienne. Nice long strands of basil. Shoot, 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 shoot. There we go, we'll get that off with a knife. And just kind of tease it a little bit like you would tease somebody's hair, and you get a nice little pile of very finely shredded basil. Get this stirred. Make sure it's not burning to the bottom of the pan, which it's not. Perfect. Turn down the heat just a little bit. We're going to get our basil in there. Get that stirred around a little bit. Now, if you look and you're like, that does not look like enough basil, you can always add more. Remember, these recipes are based on your personal preferences. So you can add, remove, change, whatever you would like to do. Recipe should be a base. It's like a framework. Here's what you can start with, and then you can see where you want to take it. So what I'm going to do is actually turn this down just a little bit because it's getting a bit hot. And I'm going to grab a spoon and give it a quick taste. So stir with a spoon, grab a piece of basil or 2. That is good, and yet I'd use a little more salt. See, so I salted the onions and I salted the garlic, but it wasn't enough. So after you add the tomatoes, obviously you're upsetting the balance of what you have in the pot. You're adding more acidity and you're adding more product. So the percentage of salt based compared to everything else that's in the pot goes down. So you just got to add a little bit and give it another taste, and then adjust as you need to. Add enough pepper though. The pepper tasted good. A little bit more salt. And we should be good. And your taste for this is going to adjust. You know, you're gonna start getting to know when you need a little bit more, when you need a lot more, based on your personal taste. I'm going to turn this down just above a simmer, and I'm going to cover it and let those guys really kind of get to know each other. All right. Put my spoon over there. Pepper in the throat. So while we're waiting on that, I'm actually going to put this over here. Save that for another batch that I'll make tomorrow. Rinse out this vessel here and use this for my breadcrumbs. What are some of the fun things that you guys have made this week? I hope you're not all just eating out all the time, because that would be sad. If that is the case, I'm sorry. Hopefully these cook-alongs will inspire you to make some cool things on your own. Give this a real quick rinse. I know you can't see me in the frame right now. Sorry about that. But this way I'm just not using a bunch of dishes. All good, we'll get this dried off. Yes, Cindy made awesome bacon roses. I don't know if you can add picture comments to this chat. If you can, go ahead and add a picture, because those things look really, really good. And you said you wrapped them in parchment paper, like you rolled them up in parchment paper, and that's how they stayed separate? You didn't use any picks or anything, or toothpicks or anything like that? That's pretty awesome. So what we're gonna do is we got our breadcrumb mixture right here. It's panko breadcrumbs, it's Italian style breadcrumbs. Basically 1 cup of the panko and then a ½ cup of the Italian style, and then about a teaspoon of garlic powder. And the reason we're using garlic powder instead of garlic, like chopped garlic, if you have a moist product going into a dry product, it's gonna clump up, it's not gonna work right. So if you use the powdered product, it'll be perfect. We're actually gonna add our Parmesan cheese here, which I've got about a ½ cup of, generous ½ cup. We're gonna just give this a quick mix, like so. Everything is nice and distributed. I feel like I want more Parmesan in there. So, just so happens that I've got some extra grated Parmesan. And this Parmesan is fresh grated. Don't buy the stuff in the green can. It's not Parmesan. Mostly wood powder, to be honest with you. Look at the ingredients. It says cellulose. It's wood powder. That's what cellulose is. Remember, like, cheese product. Ugh. Who knows what that is? Doing good over here. Yeah. Ooh, chicken with green beans and mashed potatoes. I want some mashed potatoes. I haven't had mashed potatoes in a while. Hey, next week, mashed potatoes? What could we make with... Hey, do you think ratatouille would go good with mashed potatoes, or should we make something else? I know ratatouille is like a vegetable bake, but I don't know if that'd go well with mashed potatoes. You don't want my mashed potatoes, though. They're terrible. I mean, they're good. They're delicious. They're just terrible for you. Lots of butter, lots of cream. Might wait until Thanksgiving for that one, but we'll see. Very cool, very cool. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna set this aside. I'm gonna move the tomato can over here. And we're gonna get our garlic bread started. So I've got a really nice piece of sourdough bread, and this is the bread that I baked myself last week. So it's a little bit crusty, it's a little bit stale, but it's still soft. Like, I can still push down on this, it's still springing back, it's all good. We're gonna make our garlic for it. So I just got some softened butter. Don't try this with hard butter because it's just not gonna work. Softened butter and a bunch of chopped up garlic. I'm sure you can see all of that in there. And I'm literally just going to kind of crush this together. Now, if you try doing this with a hard stick of cold butter, you're gonna have some problems. You're gonna be probably using some choice words that I'm not gonna repeat here. And you're not gonna be too happy with yourself because it's just not gonna be very fun. So if you leave the butter out and let it kind of soften itself for about 45 minutes to an hour, this mix is way easier and it works super nice. Please use butter, don't use margarine. Margarine's another one of those things that's just, it's oil. It's not good for you. It's bad. So that is garlicky goodness. I'm using unsalted butter here, and I'll show you why in just a second. So with unsalted butter, and I've talked about this before, you get to control how much salt you're putting onto whatever you're cooking. So in this case, I've got my garlic butter here. I'm gonna spread it out on the toast or on the bread. Let's see, I'm gonna take this side because it has less craggy holes. You don't need a huge dollop of butter. Well, You do. You're just spreading it out. Just make sure that it's nice and evenly covering the bread. This is what's going to make your bread nice and toasty. And this is also a super easy way to just ensure that you're getting garlic over the entire bread. Now, I chopped my garlic up into this. You could just as easily crush it, smash it, put it into a garlic press and press it into this. It works just the same. I like the flavor of chopped or minced garlic when I'm talking about garlic bread. Now I'm adding more than I need, and then I'm scraping it down so that I get a nice even coverage. And then I can always take the extra butter, put it right back into the bowl, and then this is just going to go with a little cellophane over it into the fridge. I'm going to set it over here for now. Now I've got my awesome piece of garlic bread. If you have a baguette, you can just cut it in half, and then if you do the slicing thing so that you get the little pieces that you can tear off, cover it with butter first, then slice it. And now what we're going to do is add some extra Parmesan cheese that you just happen to have over on the side. Now we've got garlic Parmesan cheese. And remember that the Parmesan has a little bit of salt in it. So you don't want to add a ton of salt after you add the Parmesan. However, now I can just take my salt and get a nice even coat of salt over my garlic bread. Do that, do a little bit of cracked pepper because it makes everything taste better. Unless you're allergic or don't like pepper, then don't add pepper. And the one last thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to find some parsley and give this a little bit of I'm going to wait until after I cook it, but I'm going to keep my parsley available. I don't want to put parsley on this and then bake it because then this is going to be burnt parsley, which is not the best. Woohoo! That looks good. Nice and concentrated. A little bit burnt to the bottom of the pan, but that's okay because the acid in the tomatoes is actually going to scrape some of that off for us. I'm going to give it a quick stir in here. That is yummy. I'll show you a picture when I swap over in just a second. Get all of this out of the way. We got a garlic bread done. Got a piece of onion on my cheese, which I don't want. All right, garlic bread is ready to go. I am going to set it over here, out of the way. I'm actually going to do this. Get that thing baking at 325. We're going to come back in for our chicken now. So if you wanted to leave this in the fridge overnight, you could. I would cover it at that point. Make sure that your chicken is covered just with cellophane. Now you'll notice that the egg is still on the outside. It hasn't dripped off. It's actually really kind of gooey. And this is going to help. Number one, it gives your chicken a little bit extra flavor. And number two, when we dip our chicken into the breadcrumb, Parmesan, and garlic powder mixture, it's going to stick really well. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to try and keep one dry hand and one wet hand. This is so I can open the oven without getting egg goo all over it. And you're just going to lay it into the breadcrumbs. And you're going to try and get the entire outside of the chicken coated in this yumminess. What this is going to do is it's going to harden up and crisp up the outside of the chicken so that when you add the cheese and the marinara sauce that you just made from scratch, it's going to be able to hold up to it. It's not going to get soggy. There we go. We'll put you back on here. We'll do the same with our second one. Get this nice and covered. What I'm probably going to do is after I put it back on there, I'm going to add a little layer on top. There we go. Now, same thing if you're using eggplant, you're going to be doing the same thing. You're just going to be taking this and dredging it through your flour, through the egg mixture, and then dredging it through your breadcrumbs. There we go. Now this we're going to put back on here. Chickens are more or less ready to go. At this point, I've got a wet hand and I've got a dry hand. And we're going to put a little bit of sauce on top of here, and then we're going to put the mozzarella on top of the sauce. Go ahead and swap this. I am still coming up with a solution to be able to switch screens a little bit easier. Not quite there yet, but we're getting there. So now is the last opportunity you have to season your marinara sauce. So we're going to go and grab our spoon, and give this a stir. I can see my bay leaf right. Oh, I lost it. Where'd it go? Here it is. I'm going to take the bay leaf out. And that's going to get tossed. I'm going to turn this down to medium-low. Give this a taste. Now what you've done in here is you've heated it so a lot of the water is evaporated. We've kind of kept it in the closed system, so it's kind of dropped back, but some of it still escapes. You've concentrated the flavor, so this should be a little bit more salty. Oh my gosh, and delicious. Yes. So here we go. We got our chickens. We're just going to scoop a little bit of sauce on top, like so. Same with the other one. You know what? I just realized I forgot to put my cayenne pepper in the sauce. So what we're going to do, we're going to sprinkle it on top, which is kind of cool because it's going to be a little bit hotter. And it's kind of sad because it's not going to have had a chance to marinate with everything else in the pot. Let me clear off my workspace a little bit here. You know what? I'll just put that there. So I've got some cayenne pepper here. I'm just going to lightly dust the top of my chickens with some cayenne pepper. I like the heat. If you don't like heat, don't add cayenne pepper. You could put red chili flakes in this. If you have a hot sauce that you like, you could add the hot sauce. You'll get some of the flavor of that in there. But do that when it's in there cooking down, because it'll get the flavor more well distributed throughout everything. And we've got our mozzarella. We're just going to put, I don't want too much mozzarella. I'm going to put one right there, right on the middle. I'm going to grab one of the other ones down here, one of the bigger ones. This one might need 2 pieces. Let me see if I can grab 2 of the smaller ones. We'll put one right there, and we'll put one right there. Now here is the sacrilegious part. Extra crispies. I'm sure there are people who might be of Italian heritage who are screaming at their monitors right now. But you know what? My chicken parmesan. This is how I'm going to do it. It's going to get super crispy on top, and you're going to crisp through into molten marinara sauce. It's going to be perfect. Yum, yum. Here we go. This is going into a 430-degree oven. And it's just going to do its thing. Hey, Hannah, how's it going? Michael, I agree with you. 19 cloves of garlic would definitely do some work against COVID-19. I'm not going to make any claims that it's going to be a cure, although it will produce antibodies, or at least it'll help your body eat something good while you're doing this. Yeah, Bill, I hate margarine. It's gross. Felicia, no, I have not made garlic knots. And this is a, oh, sorry, I'll switch back because now Y'all can't see me. I'm drinking an old-fashioned. This is a relic from our company happy hour that I was at. Usually I use that as my prep time, so I'm the one in here like in full kitchen gear getting ready, and then also drinking a little bit. Hey, Dad, how's it going? Yeah, Felicia, I've never made garlic knots. I'm gonna catch up on the chat here real quick. Ooh, lamb chops. Ooh, yes, pork roast, pork chop, lamb chops. Those all sound delicious. Hey, Jackie, how's it going? And Athena and Rebecca. Awesome. So I'm caught up on the chat. Let's go ahead and make our caprese salad. So usually, what I do when I make caprese salad is I like to, on the bottom of it, put a bed of arugula. So you get a nice peppery, fresh flavor. And my cutting board is a mess. So let's do this. I'm going to set you right there. I'm going to get this kind of cleaned up, and I will be right back while I explain what I like to do. So I like to put a bed of arugula because you get that nice peppery freshness on the bottom. And then you put everything else on top. And caprese salad is probably one of the easiest salads to make. It's literally tomato, basil, mozzarella cheese, and a little bit of olive oil and balsamic vinegar. And of course, seasoning. So you want to salt and pepper it where it actually tastes delicious. There we go. Give this a nice little dry. And we're back. So the reason I have a damp cloth underneath this is it prevents this from moving around as much. If you have one of those really cool, like, sticky-ish cabinet liners, those work really well as well. The problem with those is they also tend to attract dust and dirt, and I don't really like that. They're also really hard to clean. I can't generally just throw those into the wash. I can just throw that towel into a washing machine with bleach, and we're done. We're good with that. Here we go. Get this stuff kind of over here. You'll notice that I've got some tomato sauce on one of my pieces of mozzarella. So I'm going to use that as the bottom piece. I'm going to use this as the top piece. And let's switch this over like so. Yeah, Annika, I could definitely give you a fridge tour. There's not really much in there. There's a little bit of old stock from turkey that I had, and then a lot of beer because I don't drink beer very quickly. But I'll do that after we're done with the caprese. So I got my mozzarella down. Usually that will be sitting on top of a bed of arugula, like I was saying. And that gives you your pepper. At that point, I wouldn't add any more pepper. The arugula's got a nice peppery taste. You don't have to worry too much about adding any more. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to go halfway down the tomato. I want a couple of nice 1/4 to a 1/2 inch slices of tomato. I'm going to put the tomato right on top of the tomato. I'm actually going to put the tomato down first. I'm just going to layer it slightly. Put you down there. There we are. Wipe off the plate. Set that right there. We'll do that so you can see it. You know what? Since I've got that marinara on there, basil out here, it is. So I like a lot of basil on my caprese salads. I'm gonna grab several leaves of basil. And it's the same thing as with the other one. I like to get the really small, fine julienne pieces. So I'm just going to kind of layer it on top of itself like so. I'm starting to smell the panko in the oven behind me, and probably some of that garlic bread as well. I'm just going to roll this up like a little cigar. There we go, give it a little fluff. Tease it out a little bit. There we go. If you watch the pasta episode, it's very similar to how you get the pasta going. Kind of tease it a little bit. I'm actually not super happy with this because I forgot to do a couple of things. I'm going to pull my cheeses off. Now, since I don't have any arugula on the plate at the moment, I'm losing all of that peppery flavor. There's no pepper on here because there's no arugula. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to season my tomatoes with salt. This will bring out some of the tomato flavor. Because it's a store-bought tomato, so it's pretty bland. And we'll add a little bit of pepper here. I like coarse pepper, so I've got this on pretty much the coarsest setting. Now I'm going to add my Parmesan cheese. And a healthy dose of basil. You can use whole leaves if you want. I like it when it's small like this because then I can incorporate it into other parts of the dish. But you do you. It's actually been sitting a little bit. So one of my kind of hacks for getting a good tomato is let it sit until it just kind of starts browning. And that usually means that it's starting to get juicy. It doesn't really add to the flavor, unfortunately. So that's why I added a bunch of salt. The salt brings out the flavor. So our caprese is done. I'm going to go and check on the Parmesan real quick. Getting there, but not quite. And our garlic bread is looking delicious. So that garlic bread's got another like minute at the most. We're going to move this over to here. And this is coming out perfectly. We'll do that. I'm just going to use let's see, where did I put my tongs? There we go. So here's our garlic toast. Now look at how yummy that looks. Let's see, where's a good angle for you? It's a good angle, it's just not good enough. Meh, whatever. Now, on top of this, we're going to chop up some of our Italian parsley. And since we didn't cook the parsley with the bread, it's not going to be burnt and wilted and gross. It's going to be nice and fresh. You don't need too much, just a little bit. And then for parsley, the best way to do parsley, really just to kind of bunch it up. You're doing kind of a similar thing. Roll it up onto itself like this. You get kind of a little bit of a bundle, and it's probably hard to see in the camera, but you should be able to more or less pick it up in kind of like one little bundle. And then the same kind of choppity chop. And that should get you a nice chopped up bit of parsley. We're just gonna go doo-doo-doo all over our garlic bread. That's garlic Parmesan bread, made with butter, not margarine, because margarine is the devil. I haven't bought margarine in, who knows, 15 years? I used to make my grilled cheese sandwiches with margarine, and then I started making them with butter, and they were way better. And I've recently started experimenting with mayonnaise, of all things. And that actually works really well too, because it gives you a nice little tang on the outside. Chicken's still cooking. We're going to give that a sec. But apart from that, we're good to go. Our chicken parmesan is done. I'm probably going to layer the chicken right on top of this. I'm going to have that. I'm going to have the caprese. We're going to want a drizzle of olive oil on our caprese. And by drizzle, I mean a lot. We're going to shake our balsamic here. This we're actually just going to drizzle. And try and start at the top, because the balsamic and the olive oil are going to naturally find their way down to the bottom. So by starting on the top, you get the most coverage. Back over to here. Margarine in Australia. Awesome. All right, cool. So while we're waiting on that, I'll give you guys a quick kitchen tour, or a quick fridge tour, I guess. Don't judge me on the fridge. But here's what I got going on in my fridge. So I've got my chicken down there. Got some turkey stock, soda, guacamole, which is what I made for lunch, gigantic bottle of water. Got a bunch of beers up here, and another sports bottle of water. Butter, and of course all of the sauce that Taco Bell gives you. Got some jam and some Prosecco from my sister's, I don't remember where that's from, but it's from one of my sister's things. Some fizzy water, got a couple of white wines down there, and some milk. Got some active dry yeast, dog food, cat food. Over here, got a lot of hot sauces. And we've got some simple syrup that I made. Here's my yeast for my sourdough starter yeast. And then condiments, eggs up here. And I've got Snoopy over there and a couple of signs from my kitchen. Oh, and then if you want to come in here, just got some cheeses, bacon. Got an onion in the back there, cilantro, and a bell pepper. Radishes from my garden. So I got a lot of radishes in there. And then like lettuces and stuff over here, broccoli and a head of lettuce, and carrots and celery. Got some jalapenos for salsa. That's basically my fridge. Pretty boring, But you asked, so I figured I'd indulge. Now let's go check on our chicken parmesan and see if that's done. See, this is kind of the fun thing about cooking. There is a lot of activity, and you do a lot of work, but there are definitely periods of downtime, and a lot of people don't realize that. So what you could do if you had this all sitting out and you wanted to keep it warm, is you could actually preheat the plate in an oven, a low temperature heated oven, like 170 or whatever low temperature your oven goes to. Stick the plate in there for a couple of minutes. Be careful. Make sure you're using mitts when you pull it out. That'll keep everything on the plate fairly warm. Now, you don't want to put a salad on a plate like that, because that's going to be counterproductive to what you want the salad to do. You want the salad to be cold. So traditionally, that's why you would have salad plates versus a serving plate. Now, the other thing you could do is once you plate stuff, if it's not like a cold item like the salad, you can put the entire plate back in the oven. The low oven, it'll keep it at temperature. That looks all right. But the thing that I would like to see, probably should have gotten a more moist mozzarella. This is kind of a dry one. So the problem with that is it didn't really melt as much as I would like. Gonna get this off. Plate this kind of across the toast. Do it like this. And there we go. Chicken parmesan on top of garlic bread with a caprese salad. That's actually a really good idea, Etienne. I could probably toss this back under the broiler. let's do that, shall we? Go swoop. This is also a great example of, you know, when you're cooking something and it doesn't quite come out the way you want it to, don't be afraid to put it back. Figure it out. Do broil high. Set you right there. Move this over so that they're both under a broiler element. And I keep that cracked if I can. Good to see you too, Jackie. Hope you guys have a great night. So what's everybody else doing for the weekend? Anything fun? Next week, lamb, or should we do pork? And we'll do mashed potatoes. Up to you guys. I'm game for either one. We do a pork loin, we do a pork chop, boneless, bone in, whatever you'd like. Mashed potatoes, nice garlic mashed potatoes. And then just like a real quick salad or something like that. Does that sound good for next week? Hey, Allie's Kitchen, how's it going? Thanks, Sean. I've been growing it for about 8 hours now. I shaved this morning. No, that's a joke. It's been about a month and a half, so. But thank you. Yeah, what's going on over this weekend? I'm going to be getting my garden in order. I know I've been saying that for the past like 4 weeks, but this weekend I'm finally going to get around to it. So I've got a couple of new planters built. I've taken apart some of the old ones, and right now it's a lot of just kind of taking care of the weeds. There's a lot of weeds out in my garden. So I'm going to be pulling a lot of those and getting things kind of squared away. I got all my tomatoes planted, and I've got to plant peppers this weekend. So I've got 6 really, really hot peppers, habaneros, jalapenos, Scotch bonnet. So I'm going to have a really fun, spicy mix. And I've also got a couple of bell peppers. So Karma, which is a red bell pepper, and Orange Blaze, which, as the name would suggest, is an orange pepper. So I'm super excited about that. Ooh, we got 3 for pork, 2 for pork. Yeah, Sean. We've been saying that together. We've been like, hey, let's get together and put together a garden. And it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's going on in the world? All right, broiler's going. This guy's not quite high enough. So rather than burn myself, let me grab some of these guys. We're going to do it live. There we go. Do not slide to the back, please. Thank you. Get this up on the top rack. Like so. Now, as soon as I start smelling the house on fire, I know that that's all done. Pork. All right, looks like we're doing pork. Next week we'll do pork chop or pork loin, whatever I can find at the store, and we'll do that with creamy mashed potatoes. Are you guys chunk people? Do you guys like chunks or skin in your mashed potatoes? Or are you more creamy people? Because I'm a creamy person. I love creamy, silky mashed potatoes. They're so good. But I'm curious, what do you guys like? I'm not smelling the burning yet, but I'm sure it's coming. That's the problem with the broiler. You really got to keep an eye on it. Ooh, there we go. It's nice and bubbly. Give it another minute. Etienne, instead of doing a pork loin, you could probably do a mushroom loin. Ooh, red potatoes. That would be a good idea. Chunk and skin for Amanda. Yeah. I mean, I like them both ways. I think the chunky, for me, it's my preference. Chunky is better for like a potato salad. I think that mashed potatoes should be mashed. Although I do like the red potato with the skin and chunk idea. That sounds really good. Creamy mashed. It looks like it's going to be pork loin or whatever I find, and creamy mashed potatoes. So for those of you who don't like creamy and want to make it chunky, it's the same process. You just don't cream it down as much. Spoilers! Awesome. Here we go. This looks yummy. Remember to turn your broiler off, otherwise you actually will burn the house down. That's not what you want. Now here we go. Hey! There we go. Chicken Parmesan on garlic bread with yummy caprese salad. Switch this over. There's what you got. Go ahead and switch over here. I will take a bite. I will let you know how delicious this tastes because it looks and smells amazing. Now the real question is, do I take a bite with the garlic bread or do I do the garlic bread separate? I'm going to slide this over like so. And that way I can do a little bit with the garlic bread and then do a bit without the garlic bread. So this panko on top is nice and crispy. The cheese is nice and melty. I would have gotten a little bit like a burrata, something that's a little bit more moist as far as the cheese goes so that it actually melted. Some of the drier cheeses, they're not going to melt that well. Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. Yeah. Chicken is nice and cooked. Go. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness me. I wish I could have you all over right now because this is fantastic. The cayenne on top, lovely, lovely spice. Not too spicy, just delicious. Oh my goodness. That is a delicious chicken parmesan. And the caprese, of course, is always a crowd pleaser. And always delicious. And goes very well with the chicken theme here. Now, I do want to bring something up. And it's not just the fact that the caprese is also delicious. You might have noticed that my chicken breasts were super thin tonight. What I did was I actually took a full chicken breast and cut it in half horizontally. So if the chicken breast is like this, just went shoop. So I had 2 half-inch, quarter-inch-ish thick pieces of chicken. That lends itself really well to going straight into the oven and cooking. If you have thicker pieces of chicken, or if you get like a mondo breast and you don't want to like cut it in half and make it butterflied or 2 fillets, you should definitely sear it first. Because what that'll do is start the cooking process on the outside, get all of the outside nice and crispy, and then when you put it into the oven, it'll stay crispy and it'll cook the rest of the way through. If you had a super thick piece of chicken and you put it into the oven without doing that first, what's going to happen is the outside's going to cook, it's going to get nice and melty, it's probably going to start burning, the inside's still going to be raw. So there is a reason that you cut these things thin. Same thing with chicken marsala. If you're making chicken marsala, you're going to have thin pieces of chicken, and a lot of recipes that I've read say to actually use a meat tenderizer to kind of flatten the chicken out even more, because then when you put it into the pan or when you throw it in the oven, it cooks. You don't want a super thick piece of chicken because you can't cook the cheese and everything on the outside without, and also cook the inside of the chicken to being done without burning the hell out of the outside stuff. So, pro tip for you. Oh my gosh, yes, Jesse, I know. You always keep looking at my breasts, man. Up here, eyes up here, come on. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining me again for another fantastic Cook Along Live. just over an hour tonight, so not too long. And next week, we'll start getting this out on Facebook a little bit earlier, since this week I was just slammed with stuff to do. I had way too much on my plate. But it's good. It's a good stress. You know, when you got a lot to do and you're able to accomplish it all, it makes you feel awesome. And I loaded myself up this week with just enough of that. So perfect. Successful cook along live. I get to eat an awesome meal. I wish you all could join me, because it would be fantastic to be able to share this with you. So once all this quarantine is over, party's at my place, and we'll have a barbecue in the back or something. And sometime later this year, we are going to figure out how to get this set up outside. So I am going to be doing some grilling stuff. Haven't quite figured that out yet, although it is coming. So awesome. And hopefully you guys heard the music at the beginning. I had to go and find some royalty-free music, because you can't just use music without getting yelled at or without them muting your stream. So let me let you know who bensound.com has royalty-free music, and I'm just going to drop him a plug because he's awesome, and it's a requirement for me to be able to use this music at the beginning of my videos. So anyway, have a good one. We will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me, and eat healthy. Bye.